So hello everyone again. This is lecture 5 part 1 of dual nature of radiation and matter. This may be the last lecture. In this lecture we will continue the discussion on the examples which we concluded in the last lecture and then move on to the last topic of this lecture series, that is division and Germer experiment. So I am Sameer Lavankar. Let's begin our discussion. Okay, so right now we are on the last topic, that is wave nature of matter and division and Germer experiment. We are discussing upon this topic only. Let's go on to the last example of the wave nature of matter and then we can move on to division and Germer experiment. Okay, so these all were already explained. So this was based upon your de Broglie wavelength, that what happens when we try to calculate the de Broglie wavelength for a mass, basically a mass of electron which is very small, of the order of 10 to the power minus 31 kgs, and what happens when we try to find the de Broglie wavelength for the ball of mass 150 grams. As you can see that the amount of wavelength being calculated for both are very different in the basis of order of magnitude. The next example was based upon using the concept of lambda is equal to h upon under root 2 mk, and to find out which of these, such as electron, alpha particle and proton, have the shortest de Broglie wavelength. On applying the concept, that is lambda is inversely proportional to the under root of mass, we got that the alpha particle has the shortest de Broglie wavelength. The next question was based upon again de Broglie wavelength only, but this time you just need to compare the results, as it was already given to you that one of the thing is 3 times faster than another thing. So basically you need to calculate the mass of the particle, and I also explained this is one of the method in which you can find out or identify the particle, if it is a proton, neutron, or let us say another discovery of another particle, etc. Okay, so now let us start our today's discussion with this example. So this example states that what is the de Broglie wavelength associated with an electron. Electron as in, you know the electron mass, you know the electron charge. So and I guess velocity is not required for now. Let us move on. Accelerated through a potential difference of 100 volts. So basically as volts is directly given to you, you can directly use the formula, that is lambda is equal to h upon p. This is your de Broglie relation, in which you can directly use, as we already calculated in the previous discussion, that lambda can be calculated directly by using the concept 1.227 upon under root of v. Here we have already put the values of h, m, etc. So just directly use the formula, you just need to write the value of 100 here. So under root of 100 will give you 10. Hence finally you will get the answer as equal to lambda is equal to 1.123 nanometers. Okay. So the de Broglie wavelength associated with an electron in this case is of the order of X-ray wavelengths. As you can see, this is just for your comparisons only, but you do not need to remember that this is of the order of X-ray wavelengths. You can just explain, you just need to do the calculations in your exams. So please remember this formula, and I guess that is the end of your wave nature of matter. Okay, so finally let us move on to division and Germer experiment. Let us try to understand what the persons were trying to do, what were the basic agenda of doing this, and let us conclude the discussion further then. Okay. So division and Germer experiment. Okay. So first of all let us look at this, whatever I can explain to you, first of all I will try to explain. So as you can see, this is a complete closed circuit here. As you can see, there you can see 2 batteries here, then you can see a rheostat here, then you can see an electron gun. So as you can see, this basically powers up the electron guns. Electron beam is moving, as you can see directly, and it gets deflected here, and this is a movable collector. So basically what does it try to do? As a galvanometer is attached, we can finally find out that an electron is being passed from, let us say, electron gun to that particular movable collector or not. How to calculate that? Because we have galvanometer. What is the basic what we can say principle of galvanometer? When the electric current passes through the galvanometer, it shows a deflection. However small or low depending upon the intensity of current, but it shows a deflection. Okay. Please remember, everything is being done on a vacuum chamber. So for till now it is okay. Let us start the discussions directly, and then we can understand completely what is happening here. Okay. So the wave nature of electrons was first experimentally verified by C.J. Division and L.H. Germer in 1927. So basically this experiment was being done to discover or to basically prove that the electrons also follow the wave nature. Okay. So the wave nature of electrons was first experimentally verified by C.J. Division and L.H. Germer in 1927 and independently by G.P. Thomson in 1928. Please remember, please just though I am just going away a bit from the topic, just try to understand everything. There were two scientists, they were doing the work alone, there was single scientist who were doing the work alone. They didn't even knew what is electron, they don't even know what is wave nature, but they were trying to prove the same thing, and finally when both their works were being completed, it was found that yes, so basically one work can be proved using the another work. You can see the authenticity of the scientists with which they worked in the previous eras. So the wave nature of electrons was first experimentally verified by C.J. Division and L.H. Germer in 1927 and independently by G.P. Thomson in 1928, who observed diffraction effects. If you will go through the chapter of wave optics, you will understand that diffraction is just a phenomena of light which can be proved only and only due to if we understand the fact that light is a wave matter. So light can be understood by wave nature of propagation. So by G.P. Thomson 1928, who observed diffraction effects with beams of electrons scattered by crystals. Okay. So this is just the introduction part of what was actually happening, what was being proved by Division and Germer and what was being proved by your G.P. Thomson. Next is Division and Thomson shared the Nobel Prize in 1937. See, as you can see, after approximately 10 years, they got the Nobel Prize for this, for their experimental discovery of diffraction of electrons by crystals. The experimental arrangement used by Division and Germer is schematically shown in the figure. So this is basically the Division and Germer experiment being shown on the right hand side of this slide. Okay. It consists of an electron gun. As you can see, this is an electron gun. This is an electron gun which comprises of a tungsten filament F. So basically, as you can see clearly that this has a little curly nature like this, hai na? So this is one of the this is how the tungsten or basically a wire is being symbolized in the electrical setup. Okay. So basically, this is your tungsten filament. Okay, coated with barium oxide and heated by a low voltage power supply, LT or battery. So as you can see, this is the power supply being used. So let us go very slowly because many things are being explained here. So first of all, let us only look at this topic. Okay, so what is being happening here? As you can see, this is the setup being explained there. So quite evident, as you can see, these are just the wires. Okay, this is your tungsten and this is your battery. So basically they are just saying that this battery is a low voltage power supply. Okay. So this thing has been explained, let us move on. Electrons emitted by the filaments are accelerated to a desired velocity by applying suitable potential or voltage from a high voltage power supply. So just to explain everything what is written in this slide here, as you can see that this electron gun, this electron gun has a tungsten filament which is being supplied energy by a low voltage power supply, but electrons emitted by the filament are accelerated. You have to accelerate this. Use of how to accelerate this? This acceleration is being done by providing a suitable potential voltage from a high voltage power supply. So basically this battery or this complete closed circuit is used for providing acceleration to the electrons, and this low voltage power supply is being done to, let us say, glow up the tungsten or to the for tungsten to do its work. Okay, let us move on. This can come in exams also to explain, like let us say just some MCQ type question, that which is your high power supply and which is your low power supply. Okay. So this thing has been explained, let us move on. Next is they are made to pass through a cylinder with fine holes along its axis, producing a fine collimated beam. So basically this is a cylinder. If you look very clearly, sorry I cannot zoom the figure, but as you can see, there is a slit here. There is a slit here on the both sides of the cylinder. If I can make this diagram a bit more clearer in the 2D frame, let us say this is the cylinder in the 2D frame. Okay, so basically what is happening is this is not complete, this has a slit, and this slit is basically used to pass this beam of light. Okay, and after the beam of light, this beam of light becomes a collimated beam. Collimated beam as in it travels in a straight line, it is a single beam. Okay. Okay, so okay, fine. So they are made to pass through a cylinder with fine holes along its axis. As you can see, it is along its axis only, producing a fine collimated beam. Okay. Next is the beam is made to fall on the surface of a nickel crystal. So this is your nickel crystal. As the name suggests, this target is basically a what we can say a plane which is made up of nickel. So basically till now we have used two different elements. Tungsten was being used here and nickel was being used here. Okay. So the beam is made to fall on the surface of a nickel crystal. Why is nickel used? As the name suggests, this can be used for your complete analysis of let us say radiation. So basically nickel is very good for doing the experiments of radiation. Like if you go further in understanding physics concepts more, you will find the use of nickel in majority of the experiments. Okay. So next is the electrons are scattered in all directions by the atoms of the crystal. Okay. So basically diffraction, sort of diffraction happens, and the electrons are scattered in all directions by the atoms of the crystal. Okay. Next is the intensity of the electron beam scattered in a given direction is measured by the electron detector. What does it try to say is, we are just trying to find out the intensity of the electron beam in one of the supposedly directions. So basically we have a fixed theta and we try to find out the value of intensity of the electron beam only at that direction. There may be possible that we can do the movable collector at this location, we can find the movable collector at this location, but just we are trying to find out the intensity at some supposedly location. Basically we know the value of theta and we are trying to find out the intensity of the electron beam. Okay. So the intensity of the electron beam scattered in a given direction is measured by the electron detector. As the name suggests, electron detector, as that means it can detect the presence of electron. Okay, and collector, as the name suggests, it tries to collect the electrons. So basically electrons are being faded away or are being moved away from this location, and it finally ends up at this location. Okay, so this thing has been explained. Next thing is the detector can be moved on a circular scale and is connected to a sensitive galvanometer which records the current. So what does it try to say is that detector can move on a circular scale. As you can see clearly, just try to see clearly, I will try to make it more clearer. So what is actually happening is, basically this scale which you can see can move across this movable collector. So basically if you can understand like somewhat like this, let us say this is your this hinge, if I say this as hinge and this as scale and this pen to be scale, then basically a sort of movement like this can happen in a circular way, in an arc way. So let us say we do not want to find the intensity at this angle theta, we want to find out the angle at some another angle. So what we do is we just try to change this hinge to a location such that we can find the intensity at, let us say, this position. Again we can try to change it, let us say we do not want at that intensity, we can try to change it so that we can find out or we can parameterize that okay, the intensity is different at different angles. Okay, so basically that is what is happening here and that is what this line tries to say, that the detector can be moved on a circular scale. So basically this is a circular scale in which this can move in this what we can say this way, and is connected to a sensitive galvanometer which records the current. As I already explained to you, what is a galvanometer? Galvanometer is basically used to detect current passing through the circuit. Okay. The deflection of the galvanometer is proportional to the intensity of the electron beam entering the collector. Quite evident. So basically they are just saying the deflection of galvanometer, just I am writing again. deflection of galvanometer is directly proportional to the intensity of electron beam. Or in some mathematical form we can say, let us say that the deflection of the galvanometer is supposedly called by an angle alpha, then we can say that alpha, or let us say I write it as beta so as to not confuse it with proportionality sign. So, beta is directly proportional to intensity of the electron beam. So, basically this is one of the crux we found out using the Davisson and Germer experiment. Okay. So, this is one of the result which we found out using Davisson and Germer experiment. Okay. So, the deflection of the galvanometer is proportional to the intensity of the electron beam entering the collector. The apparatus is enclosed in an evacuated chamber. So, again, so this is the use of evacuated chamber. So, that one of the way of saying that why it is in a vacuum chamber is, can be said that the amount of leakage of electrons being put out from the electron gun to be reduced to a minimum, because it there is no such appliance, there is no such experiment till date in which we can get 100% efficiency. To increase our efficiency, we are doing the complete experiment in vacuum chamber. Okay. Because if we try to do it in, let us say, normal room temperature, then the amount of distractions or the amount of what we can say, the amount of errors which can come due to, let us say, this air etc., can be huge. That is why we try to reduce this all distractions, we try to reduce this all errors, and hence we do this majority of the experiments in vacuum chamber. So, the apparatus is enclosed in an evacuated chamber. By moving the detector on the circular scale, so we try to move the detector on the circular scale. At different positions, the intensity of the scattered electron beam is measured for different values of angle of scattering theta, which is the angle between the incident and the scattered electron beams. So, what does it try to say is, I will try to explain again. So, let us say this is your movable collector and this is your galvanometer attached to this only. This is your circular scale. Let us say this is your circular scale. So, this complete, let us for now suppose that this is a complete 90 degrees of circular scale which we have. Now, what does it try to say is that, let us say this is at angle, let us say 45 degrees. So, as we go above, the angle decreases, let us say we have our range, let us say from 10 degrees to let us say 80 degrees. Okay. So, we try to change the angle, let us say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80. At each of these angles, we try to find out the intensity of electron beams. Maybe after the experiment, we will try to understand in the next slide. Maybe at some angle the intensity will be higher, at some angle the intensity will be lower. Now, let us try to find out what happens after this complete what we can say moving part. Okay. So, by moving the detector on the circular scale at different positions, the intensity of the scattered electron beam is measured for different values of angle of scattering theta. So, this is basically your angle of scattering theta, which is the angle between the incident and the scattered electron beams, which is the angle between the incident, this is your incident, and the scattered electron beams. Okay. So, the variation of the intensity I of the scattered electrons with the angle of scattering theta is obtained for different accelerating voltages. Okay. As the name suggests, please remember the previous explanation. I explained you that this accelerating voltage is being performed by this. So, we just try to increase or decrease the voltage here, and we try to find out what happens when the voltage is increased, voltage is decreased on what, on the scattering on the intensity being captured by this movable collector. Okay. So, let me stop it here only. I will go with the final results of this complete experiment in the next part of this lecture. Okay. So, let me stop it here. So, thank you so much.